call to order the Benton County Board meeting for June 18th. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Beth, roll call.
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen.
Here.
Commissioner Heinen. Commissioner Kapinski.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Pop.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Approve the agenda. I know we're going to move, let's see, what number was that, Monty?
So, two things, Mr. Chair. Your consent item number 10, we'd like to move to a regular item right after consent.
Okay.
And then the appointment of the county attorney, I'd like to move also to right after consent. So let's do, if we could, please, the county attorney appointment first after consent, and then Sheriff Heck's item number 10 next.
Perfect.
Thank you,
For
sir.
approval of the amended agenda, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. County board meetings are broadcast live and video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. The county board observes Robert's Rules of Orders for its meetings, so please obtain the board's chair consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment or on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off your cell phone or turn them vibrate. Okay, okay. All right, consent agenda 1 through 9.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval of those, but I would like to pull item 6, please, for further discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion to approve items 1 through 5 and 7 through 9. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. Chair, if I could, Chris, if we could talk a little bit about item number 6. I know that we had a little bit of a conversation about it. I was mostly interested in the $340-some thousand I realized was mixed between federal funding and some local funding, but approximately how many miles of striping does this cover?
Yeah, good question. And I realize that this was not included in your packet, which would provide additional information. So this is a cover sheet from the construction plans on it, and we have several different project numbers, and that is due to we applied for some federal Highway Safety Improvement Program or HSIP grants to help cover this. But here's the length of miles. Like we're doing 4 miles on CASA 4. We're doing 6.5 miles on CASA 12. 8.7, 8 3/4 miles on Highway 5. County Road 70 is a little over a mile. And State Aid Highway 22 is 3.8 miles. And you add that all up, I think that is just over 25 miles of road that are being striped.
It's for $342,000.
Yeah, and so additionally though, this is ground in wet reflective epoxy material. So this is a little bit higher grade material that is supposed to have a 7-year life as opposed to latex based paint, which maybe has a 2-year life. In best case, sometimes we've seen 3 years out of latex. So since we got some federal grant money, we spec'd out a higher grade material, which was reflected in the prices here. So, but you're right. So that's 25 miles of road. Now, but that includes fog lines on each side and the center lines.
Okay.
Of it. So all said and done, you could multiply that by 4. It's about 100 miles of stripe, but about 25 miles of roadway.
And then just to clarify here, you're showing about $85,000 worth of county money.
Correct, yeah. HSIP money has usually about a 90-10 split, but the grant application, the center lines were not all eligible for the federal grant. So we're paying for some of the center lines. But it makes sense to us. If we're doing the fog lines or the outside lines, we should do the middle lines so they're the same age and same reflectivity and all that.
Mr. Chair. So there's none of this rumble strip stuff going on the edges, is there?
Not this. This is just there is. Yes, we do have rumble strips on these. So
Like on the side of the road?
Correct, yes. So, but these are not rumble stripes. So rumble stripes is where you actually, you cut in the rumbles and then you stripe through them. So it's right there at the edge line. I believe these are offset outside of the white line.
On all of these that we're doing? I didn't see that when I was looking at it.
Yeah, I don't think it's on all of them. I think it's on the ones where we just have narrow shoulders. And it's basically just to warn that driver that you're leaving the driving lane and there's not much pavement left before you're off in the ditch. So, I don't recall off the top of my head, but I bet 12 is one of those since we had narrow ones on there. So
They're really hard on equipment tires. Everybody will tell you the same
Farm
thing.
equipment?
Yeah, everybody will tell you the same thing that, I mean, you can, you know, if you're running an over-width vehicle or over-width deal and you gotta run that rumble strip, you can blow a tire in 4 miles. You know, with heavy equipment. I know they talked in Morrison County, the Bellevue Township talked to them about it. They don't wanna see that anymore in their township.
that is, I mean, it is an identified safety strategy and stuff. So, yeah. It is kind of a concern, though. 80% of all fatalities on rural roads are vehicles leaving the roadway. Most of those are single vehicle accidents. So, and the reality is we have a lot of narrow roadways with steep shoulders. So,
All right. Thank you for the clarification, Chris. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of item 6 on the consent.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, but 13,000 a mile, did you do or what is the math from last year? I mean, the last 3 years, how much has this went up? Cause I know that, we've talked about this in the past, that people have been buying each other up and pretty soon.
so this one we did get 2 bids on it. We got Sir Lines a lot, which was the lowest bidder, but then we had this other company, Century Fence. So I think that made them a little bit more competitive. But it does seem, I don't recall what the percentage increase. It was hard to judge because that was latex versus this epoxy, which is a higher cost material. So.
Okay.
As long as it's coming out of maintenance.
Yeah.
We always say competition's good, so we do like to see multiple bidders, and we were happy to see at least there was competition as opposed. You remember last year we only had the 1 bid and,
Right.
and stuff. So
All right, we got a motion and a second to approve item number 6. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same side, motion carries. Thanks, Chris. Monty.
All right. Well, Mr. Chair, as you've heard, Carl Schmidt, our county attorney, has been appointed to the judgeship in Benton County District Court. I believe Carl's will be sworn in on July 26th at 3 p.m. over in the court facility. So now it's the statutory responsibility of the county board to appoint a person to fill out the remainder of Carl's term. The board interviewed 2 individuals who had expressed an interest in this appointment. Those 2 folks are currently employees of the county attorney's office. After that interview, it was the consensus of the board to appoint Kathleen Reuter as the county attorney to serve out the remainder of Carl's term through January 4th of 2027. If I may, Mr. Chair, just a few quick highlights of Kathy's resume. She's been with us since November of 2000, first as assistant county attorney and now a senior assistant county attorney. Previously, Kathy worked in private practice with Coleman Reuter as an assistant city prosecutor, assistant Mille Lacs County attorney, assistant Champaign County state's attorney. Kathy has her law degree from the Drake University School of Law. She's admitted to the bar in the state of Minnesota and state of Illinois. With that, Mr. Chair, so you have a resolution in your packet that formalizes this appointment and also sets a salary. There was some discussion about that. I believe consensus has been reached as to a salary, so that is also set forth in your resolution. So, questions, Mr. Chair?
County Board.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to appoint Kathleen Reuter as Benton County Attorney to fulfill the unexpired term of outgoing County Attorney Carl Schmidt to set a salary of $132,000.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other communication on this? I will say both candidates were very good, and we thank both for going through the process.
Yep.
All right. Anything else? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to,
Sure.
Troy, number 10.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Bringing before you the opportunity to apply for some grant funding. We currently in the Sheriff's Office operate on the statewide Armor radio system. We've been doing that since, I think, 2008. That's approximately when we purchased the mobile radios that are currently in our squad cars. We refreshed our portable radios, I believe, about 4 years ago. And at that time, we purchased radios that were encryption capable for our deputy staff. Back in 2008, encryption was a nice thing that you could use if you had something sensitive to talk about, but nobody really considered it a vital day-to-day component. So we saved some money in 2008 and did not purchase mobile radios. When we refreshed our portables, we also looked at our fleet of mobiles, and they had been holding up just fine. They tend to last quite a bit longer, and we had a plan going into the future that included just buying a few new portables, and we'd swap out when we needed to and slowly turn over that fleet. Then one day the BCA sent us a memo on like it was a Wednesday afternoon just saying, by the way, you have to change the way you've done radios forever because we said you can't talk about this stuff in the clear anymore. So we've been working with the BCA and FBI and all the state partners to come up with, well, what does this really mean? Because the FBI's rule that the BCA is enforcing says if you broadcast criminal justice information that's private about a person, which we do quite regularly, any data that we get from the FBI, the BCA has to be encrypted. So we need to come up with a plan in the next 8 years to transition us to the point where we are able to broadcast that information in a way that's not accessible to the public. And our option to do that is encryption. So we're going to need to turn over these 27 mobile radios to encryption capable. And also, as we're coming up with this transition plan, figure out with our local public safety partners what that's going to mean and how we're going to interoperate with them, because we definitely don't want to lose the interoperability that we have with Armor. So we're in the process right now of talking and formulating that plan, but it's clear that we're going to need to replace these mobile radios. In 2023, the legislature set aside $4 million statewide for agencies to replace subscriber equipment. It's been more than a decade, probably closer to 15 years since there was a statewide grant for subscriber equipment. So we expect the demand is going to be pretty high out there. Everybody in the public safety field recognizes that $4 million is just a drop in this ocean. However, the encouragement from all of the radio regions is to apply. Even if that means that you don't get a grant, or even if that means you get a partial grant, because that is going to then form the basis for us to come back to the legislature in 2025 and say, look, you put aside $4 million, we have $300 million in need. We need to do more funding. So we've prepared a grant application to get what Benton County can from this grant. As part of that process, we're required to come up with a 5% match, and we're also required to demonstrate that we have a fund available to meet that match. We obviously need to show that if we were awarded the full $203,000 and change, that we would have the financial ability to support that. I don't anticipate that we're going to get all 27 radios. I would hope we would get a few, but nonetheless, we need to comply with the steps in the grant application. In talking through this with Monty, we identified the Capital Improvement Plan Fund as the most appropriate source for these funds. So we have before you a resolution seeking the board's consent to apply for this grant and designate the Capital Improvement Plan Fund as the matching source.
Well, as you stated, go ahead. As you stated earlier, this is a drop in the bucket, and people actually were kind of laughing about this $4 million at meetings. I mean, it's not going to cover nothing really.
It's probably about 500 radios statewide.
Yeah.
If we're lucky.
Yeah, and they've got a major issue on their hands with, and nobody's willing to fund these, and Benton County took the step 3-4 years ago to replace the portables, and most counties aren't doing that. They're waiting for the state to step in. So, any other thing?
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering how the state's gonna distribute the grant money. You know, giving everybody a little or,
Yeah, it's gonna be this much.
exactly.
I guess let's apply and find out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I agree.
Mr. If we are successful and we get a little bit of money, can you sit on it till we decide, you know, are they gonna mandate that you spend it and buy the radios right now?
That's an excellent question. I don't recall in the guidance if there's a timeline to spend the money. I would say there likely is. Most of the grant money that we've got through these funding mechanisms has an expiration because then you have to turn it back. And there's no harm in buying them piecemeal if that's what we need to do. You know, failing the state intervening and providing us with additional grant funding, that's probably going to be our path over the next 8 years, is to slowly replace these until we get to a point where we're ready to go.
Mr. Chair, so if we have to piecemeal, I wonder what the price is of the radios and all that unless we buy them in a lump sum. You know, if there'd be any cost savings or anything. Because if we have to go through an 8-year period, I just imagine every year it's gonna increase.
I guess, I don't know that we have the money right now to
know,
do
but-
everything, but
But it's something to look at, though.
Well, I wouldn't wanna do everything and then counties that do nothing get more money in the end, yeah.
Well, after we get through the grant process
Yeah.
and see where it goes.
yeah.
Have a conversation about that afterwards.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the resolution authorizing submission of a grant application and the designation of the CIP fund as a source of local match.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other communication on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you. Yes,
All right, Roxanne.
I think this is a year of nothing but bad news for us, you know.
It starts that way.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Last year, the state legalized the use of cannabis. And with that, they laid out a plan to allow for cannabis licensing to begin January 1st, 2025. This latest legislative session, they offered a proposal for pre-approval of licensing. And so with that, it has moved up the timeline in which counties must lay out regulations on where these uses would be allowed and to have registration set up. So with that, in the bill, they also laid out a way for counties or other LGUs to establish a moratorium that must expire by January 1st, 2025, in order for them to study, research, and to generate regulations for their county or their local jurisdiction. And so now that that pre-approval is beginning approximately 6 months earlier than anticipated, I believe it is in the best interest of the county to enact and adopt a moratorium on cannabis businesses and uses until January 1st. And so this was presented to the Planning Commission on June 10th, 11th? 13th,
maybe?
sorry, 13th, and it was discussed at that level. The Planning Commission did agree that it would be in the best interest to enact that moratorium and to set a public hearing. And so, should the board wish to set a public hearing, it would be at the Planning Commission on July 11th and at the County Board on July 16th.
Mr. Chair. Roxanne, so this moratorium would only be in the county and it wouldn't be on the cities that have their own licensing ability? Example, City of Sauk Rapids or the City of Foley?
Correct.
Okay.
What are the wishes?
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the moratorium outside the territory.
Let's just be clear, you're just setting a public hearing today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're
Yep,
setting a
we're
public
a
hearing
public
for
hearing.
July 16th, 9 AM,
Yes.
County Board Room,
Yep.
to consider an ordinance, yeah. Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right, and this is, once again, not in the cities of Foley and Sauk Rapids.
Correct.
Okay, got a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And I'll have Brian come up for an update.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good
Morning.
Well, every time I come up here, I'm asking you for more, but no, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the assessor's office. So, as you know, we've added 2 appraisers in the last 2 years. We've also updated our workload from approximately 3,250 parcels to 13,250. So we've added 10,000 parcels in-house for that workload. The state likes to have appraisers right around 4,500, 4,000 to 4,500 per appraiser. So at the 13,250, we are pretty much at capacity as far as the appraisal goes. So what I wanted to bring up and just kind of inform you is this year at the local board in Minden, the local board was told by their local assessor that he was not continuing going forward. So Minden Township is currently looking for a local assessor for this year, for 2024, for evaluations for 25 assessment. That same appraiser, local assessor, there's a 4-year cycle for your licensing. So you have to complete 60 hours of continuing ed, your ethics, your PACE courses. That same local assessor, I did get notification from the state that that local assessor has not completed those continuing ed hours. That cycle ends on June 30th of this year. So on July 1st, Alberta and Granite Ledge very, very likely will not have a local assessor as well. So again, those parcels, if they cannot find somebody, they have 90 days to fill that role. If they cannot find anyone, that will fall upon the county assessor to do those parcels. So,
Mr. Chair, Brian, a couple questions.
Yep.
So approximately how many parcels in Alberta and Granite Ledge?
So there's 1,508 parcels in Minden, 1,509. Alberta has 624 and Granite Ledge has 657. So around 2,800 parcels.
And so kind of a stupid question, in Minden, do we also do the areas that are like an orderly annexation, or are we doing the whole township? Is that person doing the whole township?
Correct. Yeah, we do every parcel that's located in there
In the
and personal
township
property
regardless
mobile.
of-
Correct.
All right.
Yeah. So, that brings into about 2,800 parcels that could be asked of our office to complete yet this year for January 2nd of 2025. And again, we did pick up Gilmanton Township and the city of Sartell, which you've already approved. That's another 1,300 parcels, which we absorbed into the existing staff that we had.
Mr. Chair. So Brian, so it's mandatory if they can't find one, it falls back on the county then, correct? Is
Correct.
that what I heard from you?
Correct.
Okay, at this point in time, how much money do we receive per parcel?
Right now, our new contracts in the townships and cities, $11 to $12 per parcel is what we're currently at. I tiered up the ones that, like Gilmanton, $11 for the first year, $12 for the next 2, $13 for the 2 years after. So I did a 5-year agreement, not necessarily a contract, an agreement with them. But that's where we're at as far as, and that's pretty typical of what the locals are charging as well, the ones that have it. The very good locals are overextending themselves and very booked, and there's just not a lot around anymore that are taking on work, so.
Does that cover our costs?
It does not. What we
Percentage of it?
So I mean, I kind of did a projection, back in 2022, we charged the townships and the cities a flat parcel rate, and then we paid out the locals that we hired ourselves. So in 2022, we had retained $35,919. That went, 2023, that went up to $51,410. This year, the projection is $81,438. And that's because we're paying Steve Barenbranker and those for the second half of 24. We pay it in this year. So next year, if nothing were to change, our office would retain about $130,000, $127,449. Because for the 25 assessment, we're not paying out anything. So we're retaining all that money. So it's just one of those things that if we did pick up Minden, Alberta, Granite Ledge, for this year, it'd be close to $100,000 that we would retain, so we'd only retain about another $20,000. Next year, we would retain 160,000, so it'd be up about 40,000. And again, the only other option is, at some point, if we ever talk, True County and go down that road, then we would be, charging those jurisdictions, and we, one more appraiser in our office, I do believe that we would have the capacity to then do the entire county if need be.
Mr. Chair, how far are we from True County? If we picked up Alberta?
Well, if we
Grand
picked up
Rapids,
those three, we would have three townships. There would be Langola, Mayhew Lake, and the city of Rice would be left that do not contract with or have an agreement with the county.
Mr. Chair. So Brian, is this the reason of assessors retiring then too?
Well, I think part of it is the retiring the local assessors. There's just not a lot of them out there. Steve Barenbrinker retired, so that's why we brought on all of those parcels. And again, really wasn't to talk to anything other than just letting you know that this might be coming up. And if Minden finds a local assessor to take over that district, then we'll just move forward the way that we are right now.
Okay.
But it's very possible that we may have some parcels coming our way.
So, if we wanted to go True County, do these, townships and cities have a choice, or then they have to go with us?
Well, so they don't have a choice per se. I mean, if you pass how that would work, and I guess I wasn't really too prepared for this, but how that would work is if you passed a resolution today that said we're going True County, that takes an effect on January 2nd of 2026 for the 26 assessment. So what we're doing right now is as of normal, and then the next year we would take over the entire county. That doesn't say that the county assessor's office can't do it, and we could still hire, if there's one or two jurisdictions that wants to keep their local, if that was something that was agreeable, we would have to then hire that local and keep them going and pay them however we would normally do that.
Well, if you look at the retirements and the accessibility of assessors, maybe we should start having that conversation earlier than later.
And I know Roxanne and I and Monty do have a meeting set up next week. We were just gonna discuss more about, just a forwarding plan. One other thing I always wanna bring up is it's also other costs that are associated. We're currently doing a conversion. So you have a local assessor that works maybe one jurisdiction that we have to try to train in on a brand new system. We have to provide them a computer, a laptop, technology, the fees going for the Apex sketch, the Tyler, all of those are licensing fees that we're providing that local. Whereas if we had that staff member in-house, we're not providing those additional licenses as well. So there's other, technology type costs associated as well.
Mr. Chair, any idea how many counties are True County?
I
You got a
don't.
guess?
I don't. I know that 5 in our region went True County last year.
Oh, wow.
And again, I could certainly put something together. I know our property tax compliance officer, went and met with one of, several of them, and she can certainly talk to any, the True County things as well, of how that works. All it does is it says that the county assessor's office is responsible for the assessment. The local jurisdictions can still hold their local board meetings as normal. So nothing changes there. It's just that we're in charge of the assessment. And in my opinion, I think it would be a lot more equalized and I have a lot more control over what is going on with my appraisers than I do with a local assessor.
Sure, and I'm sure you'll have in your discussion potentially if we need extra staff, how they may potentially fit into a.
Yeah, and space wise, and we would have to figure that out. And again, at first, you can still charge, if we go True County, you can still charge those jurisdictions per parcel like we're doing now. So, at our current pricing, if we were True County, by 26, we would be retaining around 200,000 of revenue. And so if we have 4 appraisers on staff, at 150% of, that's retaining half their salary.
Yeah.
So, it is something. Now, if we have a local that we hire because a couple jurisdictions want them, that would come out of that, obviously. Right. I think with, right now, Mayhew Lake and Langola, and Minden as well. If they can find somebody, great. If not, we just have to be prepared for what could be coming down the road.
From my standpoint, this is clearly not a moneymaker.
Right.
But the problem is we run the risk of taking on these jurisdictions anyway, and then be not staffed or don't have the funds to bring on somebody during those times. So we're kinda in a catch-22. I think we gotta start looking, like you said, quicker on going county.
At
through
least
county.
explain the options to them,
Yeah.
you know, that, you know, you're two left or you're three left and all the others are under the counties and maybe it's time we do this, or we might be doing this.
Yep,
And also let them know that they could still keep their assessor
Yeah,
if they want.
yeah.
Might be a good item to talk to him about at our meeting with him.
That's probably,
yeah. I think if we do this, in my opinion, we try and
Yep.
take it away from, just for a fact, it just becomes a lot more cumbersome if they're,
Right.
if it's under the county, but yet still having their own jurisdiction and stuff. I don't know. We need to have this we need to have this talk sooner rather than later.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and just for clarification, if we did go through county, we would have full control of who was hired in those areas. The local board would not. It would be more of an agreement that you can keep your local, but they'd be hired through our office instead of.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, Chris.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I thought I would come talk to you today about something other than road ditches or roads and bridges. And talk to you about our underground fuel storage tanks that we have at the Highway Department. So back in May, maybe it was the end of April or the first week in May, our tank monitoring system was giving us an alarm in the building. So our maintenance superintendent called Minnesota Petroleum, a contractor that we use. They do our annual tank inspections and had them send out a technician to figure out what was going on. And what we learned is that there is I learned that there's a sensor in the space between the dual walls of the dual wall tank. And that sensor was detecting liquid. The sensor doesn't know if it's water, if it's fuel, or whatever. It was sending an alarm. So the technician came out, pulled that sensor out of that space, and observed that it smelled like unleaded fuel, and it was our unleaded tank. He also did some further testing. He did a vacuum testing, tried to put a vacuum on that space, and couldn't hold a vacuum, further indicating that there is a breach in that space. But the fact that it had fuel in it and not water indicates that it was the inner wall of the tank and not the outer wall. But it's safe to say that we have a break in that dual wall tank system, and that needs to be repaired. We don't have a release to the environment as far as MPCA is concerned, so the safety factor of the dual wall steel tank is doing its job. It contained all that fuel within the outer wall. But since that safety system has been compromised, we can't let it go for too long. We'll need to have that repaired. So we had Minnesota Petroleum give us a quote to do that work and outline a repair procedure. And basically, to repair it, they'd have to cut a hole in the top of the tank through the concrete, cut out some concrete, evacuate it. We've got to draw the fuel down to at least about 500 gallons, and then they will pump out the rest and evacuate that. And a person's got to go down there and perform repairs on that tank, find where it's compromised, where it's cracked or whatever, and repair it. So that's about $32,000 to repair one of the tanks there. And then once again, we only know of the unleaded. We have the same system. What I have on the screen here is a diagram that I think pretty well demonstrates what we got going on. We've got dual wall tank and sensors in there. Diesel is not indicating any sensors picking up any liquid, so we just know of the unleaded right now. So yeah, like I said, about $32,000 to repair this. We did some digging in our file, and we found some warranty information. The county, back in 2006, when the highway shop was being built, purchased the tanks directly instead of using the contractor. So we become responsible for any warranty information. But what we could tell, the county did its part in fulfilling all the warranty information. The contractor signed off on a checklist verifying that the tanks were installed per the manufacturer's recommendations. We purchased it from Fargo Steel and Tank back in 2006, who is now True North Steel. So we reached out to them, and that got passed along to somebody, Steel Tank Institute or something. We don't have confirmation that all this work is covered by warranty yet, but the good news is we have our contractor communicating with the warranty people to schedule an inspection. The warranty people say that they need to send out their person to inspect it as well to verify that this work could be covered under warranty information. So the warranty listed things like it was a 30-year life, 30-year warranty. So here we are about 18 years later. You would think that it's covered. To what extent, that's still up for debate, and I'm remaining hopeful that at least a portion of those costs will be covered by warranty. But we are going to have to move forward with doing these repairs. But there will come a time where the unleaded will be unusable and inoperable to other county departments at some point. We don't know when that'll be yet, but.
Mr. Chair, I'm assuming there was nothing real transparent about that's non-transferable or anything like that on the warranty information.
There is some. The only thing I found looking through it now. Sometimes warranties are written by lawyers for lawyers, but
Sometimes.
There's some language in there about the cost to replace or repair can't exceed the original cost of the tanks.
Okay.
So we bought 2 tanks back in 2006 for $32,000. So I don't know.
So more
That's a
than
good way.
likely
If you have a
more.
30-year warranty, how could you project how much the repairs are going to cost 30 years later from when you install them? So, but you're right. We bought 2 10,000-gallon steel tanks back in 2006, delivered to our site for $32,000.
So we're going to be on the hook for something.
Yeah.
I think we will be for something.
Well, they're gonna prorate that.
Correct,
More-
yeah.
I mean, more like, I guess my concern is that once you leak, it's an ongoing situation. You can pressure tank them, use nitrogen, whatever you want to do that double wall, they will leak again. I mean, it happens in milk tanks, it happens in everything. At some point, we probably need to look at, I mean, now just, my personal feeling is get them out of the ground and get them above ground in a contained storage or contained area, because that's the way you go. You can buy the same things and then you don't have all this digging and all the other stuff that goes with it. So if the cost and the age of the tank get too much, it's like, we better look forward for something else.
Yeah, well, if it's gonna cost $16,000 to replace it, or to fix it,
Yeah.
we replace it.
Do we replace it? I mean,
Mr. Chair, that was my thoughts too, Commissioner
Yeah,
Pop. Is
I
that
mean-
what happens if they go in there and they find more areas that
well,
have to be
we
fixed?
fix it today, in 2 years we got another one, then we're in the 32.
Correct.
And at the age of the tanks, 18 years, yeah, I don't know. But if you had to replace them, I would definitely look at above ground. You know, you got the pumps, you got everything else, so it can't be, I mean, I was gonna take a picture yesterday of one of the farms between Royalton and Bolus that they've got above ground. Beautiful setup, you know, they got the room, all that, and it just looks like that makes more sense. Plus, I would probably I'd buy bigger tanks so you can maybe get, you know, at least get to 15,000 so you can get 2 semi-loads in there.
A little better pricing.
Yeah, for better pricing,
February.
yeah.
Mr. Chair, that was my thought too, is what are our options?
Yeah.
Underground or
I'm a
above
little
ground?
skeptical on fixing it because you know,
Well, I think we've got to try to fix it,
Yeah.
but
Right.
if it comes to a point where that expense is too high,
or if they do the check, you know, if they do, because they're gonna do some kind of a pressurized check, I'm assuming.
after they fix it.
I guess. Well, yeah. So they've already tested it and are confident that we've got a leak. So they're gearing up for repair. The next thing would be to schedule this inspector to have them go look at it as well, and verify, that it's a tank failure or whatever. And worst case, they come back and they say, oh, it's not covered by warranty, and then we try to argue that and put the repair on hold. So
They should be able to tell if the tank is in good shape, bad shape. You know, I mean,
hopefully, yeah.
What, do you know other counties if they have the above ground tanks?
I don't know for certain. Yeah, I would have to poll the county engineers and see what they.
you know, and if you go the other route, you don't have the the EPA and all the other stuff, because you're not ground contaminated, everything's contained. Yeah, it costs a little money to build the storage around it.
I think from what we're hearing up here is maybe let's start getting our options together.
So it would maybe something, go out and get some prices for an above ground system?
I mean, it's gonna be substantial, because you know what tanks cost,
Yeah,
but you don't have, I'm sure you don't have to have the double wall.
or maybe not, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'm concerned that we should not delay, in my opinion, the repair.
No,
I think given the volume that is potentially coming out, we should proceed with the repair. I mean, hopefully we can get some warranty coverage, but I don't think we should delay repair, and, you know, continue that conversation. We should get it repaired.
So
If it's the unleaded, or is it leaded or unleaded?
yeah, it's the unleaded tank,
The
yeah.
unleaded one,
So-
I mean, we could contract, if it's non-fixable, we could contract with one of the locals to give us fuel.
Well, that's what they're gonna have to, well, you're gonna be spreading around the locals while they're doing this anyway.
Sure, yeah.
Well, that's happened in the past. You may recall when there was a major repair, you had like sheriff squads went to Brenny's
Yeah.
to
mhm.
get fuel. So it'd be like, you know, fleet vehicles, sheriff squads.
Yeah.
But I think
Pickups.
I think to Commissioner Kapinski's point is let's get rolling on some other options. I mean, if we get it sucked down and it's gonna be X number of dollars to repair it, I think we better have that discussion versus replacing it.
I
Cost us
understand your
20
point,
grand.
but imagine how long it might take though to arrange for the purchase, design, and installation of new above ground tanks. All the while this is leaking. That's my worry.
But if we pump it down, we won't be leaking.
Excuse me?
If we pump it down below the leak point, we won't be leaking.
I think what
further.
Commissioner Johnson's saying is we pump it down, find out if it's not fixable, or if it is, it's gonna be 32 grand or whatever it might be. He's saying contract out, don't let it keep leaking, contract out and let's come up with a fix.
So that's our interim solution, is just we don't put fuel back in it, we keep
Correct.
it empty.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe that's the interim solution.
Yeah.
I think we do have, the date's unknown. Okay, part of it's due to consumption. How fast are we consuming the fuel, the unleaded in that tank to get it down to that 500 gallon mark? And that was when we're supposed to notify them that we're at that point. And their $32,000 included the cost to pump it out into a temporary tank and hold up to 5,000 or 500 gallons, and do that. So I think we got the ball rolling at least to get that going, which requires, I think, I don't know if there's a way around getting a person down there. They have to do this evacuation procedure and get somebody down there inspected to look at the tank. So
Chris, how big of a tank is that?
it's a 10,000 gallon
10,000.
tank.
And then how much a gallon are you guys paying right now?
Oh gosh, good question. I don't
3?
know. No, I think we're below 3. I think we're 260 to 270 range
So,
maybe. but-
Hypothetically, if this turns to water getting in there instead of the gas, we could ruin 10,000 gallons of gas too.
But we've got an inside leak, not an outside leak.
Outside leak.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, you already have one barrier broke.
Right.
So that, I guess where I'm going with,
Now, I guess how much gas is in there, do you know?
Yeah, thank you.
Last time I asked Mark Ebnett, which was probably over a week ago, I think we were still over 2,000 gallons in that.
Oh, you're gonna go through that pretty fast though. with all
We
the-
should be getting there pretty close, yeah. But I mean, the purpose of bringing this up is that, it does affect other departments, namely the sheriff's department and Foley PD. And
Do we know do they know where the leak? Is it at the
No, not until
8,000
they get
gallon
in there.
mark or the?
not exactly. When I was able to talk to the technician when they were on site, and quite fascinating actually, if you want to get into it. But when he was pulling his vacuum, he was able to put a microphone in there and hear for bubbles. He said, if I'm hearing bubbles, then I know the leak is below the fuel level at that day. Or if I'm hearing just air, then that leak was but so I think at that day it was above the fuel level there, but at that time, we weren't full and we weren't empty. I'm not sure if we know exactly where that leak was, but
well, bring us back, options and hopefully, I'm gonna say if the warranty covers it, we get it fixed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then wait for it to break again. But in the meantime, we start getting costs.
Be ready to go.
But
Yeah.
if the warranty's gonna come back at 32,000, it comes back at 10,000, I'd rather put the 22,000 into a new facility,
If they're gonna prorate.
if they're gonna prorate.
Well, yeah, we need to see numbers in to make decisions. So it sounds like that's another thing we do is reach out to our contractor and at least if they can give us a ballpark figure of what above ground system would cost.
I wouldn't wanna go in that tank to do it.
It sounds like though, it's like, we don't wanna fill this tank back up.
No, God,
So
no.
when its supply is exhausted, we're gonna need to go with alternative fuel sources,
Right.
Yeah.
like Brenny's again,
Yes.
for some period of time. And it could be certainly extended if we're gonna go with a new tank installation.
Could be.
Could be.
It could be several months.
Mr. Chair, Monty, do we distribute the, buying gas between, two
the county?
facilities around the county, or I mean, around Foley anyway?
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be.
Chris, what was the arrangement last time when we had to do the repairs? And it was down for how was it down for how long?
Yeah, it was down for 2 or 3 months, went back 3 years ago.
Where did folks get gas? It was mostly Brenny's?
It was Brenny's, yeah, down here on Norman. And
Did we put that out for bids or something then at that point in time, instead of just going to one gas station instead of splitting it up?
no, and I think we did that because we had used them before in the past. Back when the highway shop was even right here, there was times that they would use Brenny oil.
I think they
for
were
things.
pretty cooperative in terms of billing us.
Yeah, they handled all the billing to each department, whereas now we have to distribute how many gallons went to each department and do that. I don't know if the others were interested, but
Be probably the only locally owned.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a Good,
Yep.
good point.
You know, I mean, I'm not.
And
counting
they're all
this as
paying
like-
taxes, so, I mean.
Yeah, they
But
are.
they probably live in Foley,
They do.
right? It doesn't hurt to go out and ask them.
Just trying to be transparent,
Yep.
that's all.
It would be nice to have something in Sauk Rapids,
spread around the
Foley,
county.
and Rice,
Yeah.
but
But it's more
it's gotta
convenient.
make sense too.
Yeah, it's more convenient here,
Well,
being
but
every.
deputies have to drive out here now to fuel up, so,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, no, it only
That
makes
may
sense.
simplify things, and hopefully it's short term.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of speculation we're all doing here until we.
Right.
find
Yep.
out.
Yeah,
Yep.
Commissioner Pop,
No,
if
it's-
all of a sudden these above ground tanks come in at 200 grand and it's 10 grand to fix this one,
Right.
I think we might all kinda like, ooh, let's pay the 10 grand and kick that can if we will.
It won't be 10 grand to fix it. Well, if we get some insurance money, we might be.
Yeah,
Oh, by the way, we did check with MCIT to see if there's any coverage, and the underground tanks are excluded from
course they are.
coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
They be.
yeah. What about above ground?
I don't know, I have to ask the question. I know the above ground fuel station is scheduled and covered, but below ground is not. So I'd have to ask about above ground tanks.
Very good question to
I'd
ask.
have
Yep.
to ask.
yeah. All right.
well, yeah. So just informational now, but yeah,
We
anticipate further discussions in the future.
Dollars one way or the other.
Yeah, he's here all the time begging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I had for today, unless there was any questions.
Nope.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
What are the wishes of the board? Do we wanna keep going or move into, take a break?
EDA,
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
is step away from the county board meeting, go to the EDA. Do we got a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to, pause the county board meeting and go into EDA. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Amanda,
Good morning.
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 we already did roll call,
Yeah.
so we're all here, so.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for having me this morning. I just wanted to provide you with some updated changes to our microloan request from Northern Hollow Winery. If you recall, we approved this microloan back in August, and since August, there's been some changes to the entity and also to the guarantor of the loan. So after talking with our EDA attorney, we felt it necessary to bring it back to the board just so that you can review the changes and approve the changes, the updated changes. So if you recall, Northern Hollow Winery was formed in 2013. They were located in Graston. They have since purchased a property here in Gilmanton Township in the Orderly Annexation area, located at 6120 105th Avenue Northeast in Foley, just outside of the city limits of Foley. The site consists of 23 acres. They are looking to construct a winery and event center. So this is a little bit different than our last discussion in August where you approved the loan for the smaller project, which just included the winery. They reevaluated their pro forma, they reevaluated their needs assessment for the area, and they felt that in order to make this project work, they really did need to add the event center onto the facility as well. So it is going to be the larger facility, so the winery and the event center. And they are, you probably already seen that they're, planting some grapes out on site too in that location. In August, the EDA approved the microloan request of $70,000, amortized over 25 years with a 5-year balloon, interest rate of 7.5%. It was proposed at that time that the county was going to take third position on the collateral for real estate and equipment. Nothing has changed in regards to the amount of the loan, the interest rate, the term, the collateral position. It really is that they're adding an entity as an operating company. So Northern Hollow Winery is going to be, is the real estate holding company, and Northern Hollow Winery Enterprise Corp is the operating company, and they're going to be co-borrowers. Same person owns both entities. It's just that that's the structure that they settled on that made the most sense for them. And then the owner's wife, Deanna, is no longer going to be an owner or a borrower, so we've taken her off as the guarantor on the loan. So it is essentially Northern Hollow Winery, who is the holding company and the guarantor on the loan, as well as Jim Trueheart, which is very similar to what Jim was as the guarantor on the loan docs in August as well. So it's really just taken Deanna off. So because of those two changes, the entity change and the co-borrower change, EDA attorney just said that we should bring it back because it's more than an administrative change to the loan docs. So I updated the loan docs that are included in your packets with the new entity changes and the guarantor changes. And so I'm just bringing it back to you for approval. I do want to mention that our finance committee did review the changes. They didn't have any concerns. They met just this past Monday, and they didn't have any changes or any concerns with the updated information.
Amanda? Mm-hmm. What is the purpose of taking off the wife?
There was some, it was SBA requirements, and there was, SBA has certain requirements, and background information on that, that wife was, it didn't
vote well.
It didn't go well with the SBA, so we just took her off, and then it. Okay. Yeah.
That was going to be my concern with taking a guarantor off and being third in line of position. That was what was my scare.
So the other thing about the loan docs is the wife has to consent to the guarantor anyways. So even though she's not signing, she has to consent to Jim signing the guarantor because they're husband and wife. So she's.
They got joint collateral.
They do, yes, because they're husband and wife.
Mr. Chair.
Nope, you go right ahead.
Okay, so being you added the event center, I see is it still the 4 new jobs will be created within the 2-year anniversary, or has that changed?
That has not changed. That is.
it's still stayed
that
the
is
same
still
then.
the same. Everything has stayed the same.
Mr. Chair, Amanda I'm assuming they've had preliminary discussions with the city of Foley then in regards to the event
Yes, they
center?
have, yep.
Okay, so that's been in
Yep.
front of them already.
Mhm.
And obviously, bankers have seen and signed off on this.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, one question I had, and I was unable to attend the loan committee because I was
Yeah.
busy. Did they discuss the interest rate? That's higher than what we've been doing for others, but there was no discussion.
There was no discussion on the interest rate. Everything stayed the same, basically because of that we're in third position.
Yeah.
And the loan is, I mean, it's the risk level that the committee felt that it was necessary to keep the interest
I
rate the
trust
same.
loan committee.
Yep, and then the other thing I just wanted to mention, the other change that you won't see necessarily, but the Initiative Foundation has come in at 500,000 instead of, I think it was just under 100 last time. So they've stepped up and contributed a little bit more to the project overall. But that doesn't necessarily affect our loan
I don't wanna
request.
minimize the 70,000, but it's not 700,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh, that's
exactly.
true.
And is the Initiative Foundation, are they all in? I mean, all their work is done? They're ready to go?
Yep, the Initiative Foundation is done. Of course, we require that we have life insurance policies and all, we try to collateralize everything as much as possible, and we have full collateral coverage on all of our loans, so. I mean, third position is
Third
always
position.
Yeah,
a little bit riskier, but that's the nature of
That's
the
what we do.
program.
yeah.
Yep, that's what we do.
Just for the record, what's the timeline on opening?
Well, they wanted to close last week, so they are trying to get in the ground yet this year and trying to be open. And I'm not sure if it'd probably be spring at this point. Spring of 2025.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, with that and all the information that was presented, I will approve the loan docs for, what is it?
Northern Hollow.
Northern Hollow Winery.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions regarding this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Anything else on your end?
Any updates, anything?
Oh, I have so many, but I wasn't prepared, so I'm just, we potentially have one more microloan coming in front of the board, but it's a little bit out there yet, so we're still working. We got a lot of inquiries for the microloan program, I think 6 so far this year, and, which is really good. I think the word is getting out, that this program is available. And then, just being able to talk to our lenders in the area, knowing that we have this program is really helpful. The Initiative Foundation is fantastic to work with because we can capital stack all of our programs. And this is a great example. They came in really strong on this project, and they have on many of our other ones. So it's really nice to have that partnership with the Initiative Foundation. But we continue to get inquiries for our program, which is really great. So,
Mr. Chair, Amanda, rough balance on the loan? We getting
I
$1
think I
million
just
bucks yet?
looked at it. It's just under $1 million. In cash, we have 4 loans out. They're all current. We had one payoff earlier this year. That's why we have so much in cash balance. But most of our loans are under 100 and roughly 140,000 or under. So,
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Amanda.
yeah, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, could you take care of agenda item number 3?
Okay.
Read the minutes.
The what? Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, we'll approve. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'll move to. Go ahead, Commissioner.
So move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 16th. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We got a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to adjourn. We are adjourned on the EDA at 9:59. Is Jacqueline joining remotely?
I see Jacqueline online. Yeah, there she is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just do it.
Yep.
If you could take care of community report, yeah.
Yep, I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Heinen.
Okay, we'll now run the Community Health Board. Roll call already. Approve or amend the agenda? Anything to add to the agenda, Jacqueline?
No, nothing to add.
Thank you.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Consent agenda 1 and 2, what would you like to do with that?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Jacqueline, anything to add?
No, light agenda today.
Wow.
Okay, well, great. Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Yeah. At this point, we'll adjourn at 10 o'clock. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Turn it back over to the board chair.
I think what we'll do is we'll finish up the county board and we'll go in the ditch.
Okay.
Okay, commissioner meeting updates. Who would like to start?
I can go. Obviously, I think all of us were down at the District 5 meeting in Chisago County. That was well attended. Of course, we were all at our cow for the county attorney candidates. I did have the opportunity to visit with Amanda, Brandon Voigt, and Sarah Brunn on a BRE visit with Benton County Abstract here in downtown Foley. That was pretty interesting. They've completely redone the offices in there. It's very nice in there. The next day, of course, we had our cow with Brent and Kristen and ARPA for St. Cloud and the cannabis discussion. And then I had a ditch subcommittee meeting with Chris on the 13th, also Planning Commission that evening. And as you heard from Roxanne, Planning Commission voted unanimous to hold a public hearing on the cannabis moratorium. So, that's all I had.
Okay, well, I did a BNRE visit with BM, the up in Royalton, the emergency vehicle deal. Wow, that was impressive. I had the opportunity, I used to go there once in a while.
DTM?
Yeah, when it was the pizza joint. Wow, they did a lot of remodeling and that looks pretty good. And I never realized there's that much demand. He said that on an average week, he turns down 3 weeks worth of work because they don't, and they got people that they send out nationwide to do troubleshooting too. I mean, it's like, holy cow, I think Amanda's gonna meet with him about trying to get through the VOTEC school, some training or something, because he just can't find workers. I mean, he said, he knows within a week, he said, if they come on Monday and they're back the following Monday, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
But it takes, almost if they start on a car and one person works on it every day, it takes them better than a week to get that all equipped. And now they're fabricating some of their own stuff, like where all the electronics go behind the third seat. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, and they moved in there. I mean, that was pretty nice. I thought they moved in and that place that left, they left all the office furniture, all the computers, everything. They just left.
Wow.
Nothing, everything. So, yeah, I mean, looks like, they are well on their way to building on or adding more room in that. And then, of course, I had Micah on Wednesday and Jared was on. Just more of a session wrap up, what didn't happen.
Yeah.
And no money for this and no money for that and transportation. So, and then I left a sheet on here about the county program aid. So.
But that's just proposed.
Yeah, but they've been,
Yeah.
like Monty just said,
They're usually
Mike has
pretty
been
close.
pretty accurate. So, could be worse.
Right, we'll get the final Department of Revenue number this summer.
Yeah. Could be worse, could be better. I mean, that's why I looked at it.
I'll tell you, I was sitting on that meeting and I just heard it at District 5. We just heard it at the county board. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah.
Bit of a repeat of the legislation cap.
And we did have a executive committee meeting and we're still working with the Anoka County to become a member. And if they become a member now, they'll become at 50% for this year. And then they'll be a full member next year and that'll help offset some of our increase in budget for next year. We won't have to budget a whole lot more because of that. And of course, the executive director gotta have a raise because they're in hot demand, and then we have to replace Steve Novak. And them contracts are high. I was surprised at how much these people get for running that contract. Whoa. You know, and we got 3, and then we're gonna continue to go out for environment and natural resource and probably public safety. Public safety, we're gonna look again with AMC to sub with them, cause they do a lot of the same work. And environment and natural resource, we contracted out for a entity that does just environment and natural resources. So, I think they're good, you know, our executive director's good. And that was all that I had.
Okay. Commissioner Schlangen?
The Minden Township meeting, and they were talking about the assessor. Career Solutions and the cow.
Okay. Commissioner Heinen?
Okay, I'll be quick. Had a performance review for Tammy Bear, Career Solutions. That went very well. We're going in a good direction. Went to the East Central Regional Juvenile Center for that meeting. It was just a normal updated meeting. And then we took a tour of the facility. It was very interesting. Region 5, County Attorney, the cow. I had a SHAC meeting, a Career Solutions meeting, and then yesterday I met with Amy Meyer, senior social worker, and went out on a visit. And that was rather interesting again. Very, very interesting. You guys have to do some of this stuff. It's pretty crazy. And just to throw something out there, tomorrow I'll be doing a radio interview about homelessness. So it'll be interesting. And I'll be taking Victoria Blonigan with our outreach individual, so.
Good. Okay. All right. I had the same as everybody else, the MICA meeting with Commissioner Pop, District 5, the cows. I missed the radio board meeting because of one of the cows. APO, we tabled a couple things that night. We usually don't table, and it was all of our upcoming dues, how we're gonna replenish the money that we took out of reserves for the bridge study. So it was, there's a lot of dialogue going back and forth on that one. It was, got a little contentious again, so. I just sit back and go, if we can't afford these projects all together, how is one person gonna do it?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's broke, I get that, but it is what it is, so.
Ain't
We'll
you
stay
forgetting the
tuned.
most important part, though?
Huh?
Ain't you forgetting the most important part? You'll be the next chair.
Oh, yeah, well, if I'm elected, I'll be the next chair, I think, but, we did talk about going out to, DC again, and Benton County was literally on every slide on money being given, which was a good thing. It's been a long time, and that was called out, actually, and that was Clay's. It was like, been a long time since we seen that, and then we went through that I would be the next board chair too, and they're like, well, Benton County's never been the board chair.
They don't rotate counties?
They do, but it's never fallen in line.
Yeah.
So, we've only been vice chair once. And so, I think the APO started looking at it and going, holy cow, we got a lot of stuff going, which is good for our county.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's all I have. Committees of the whole.
We have no new ones to add,
What?
but we'll come up with some if you'd like.
Monty, that would be a negative. But,
I do have one change though. So Lori from Extension would like to visit with you on July 2nd to discuss all the changes that are going on with Extension. We already have a committee of the whole to talk to Tessa from DDA, so we want to just add Lori to your agenda for July 2nd. So if you could make a motion just to make that change, we're good.
perfect.
So moved.
Okay. Got a motion and a second comment. Last week we had 2-hour cows. Let's move those together next time. I know it's a little bit, I'd rather be here for 4 hours. I don't know what you guys think,
Sure.
but
Depends on the
two
subject.
hours.
Depends on the subject for me.
Yeah.
I totally agree coming in, well, of course, I only
'Cause
came
we had
in for
District
an hour
5.
because I was busy, but, yeah.
Yeah, we had
We'll do
district.
our best to make
Yeah.
combine topics and
Yes.
that have fewer than, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yep. Okay.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to add, Lori to the, July 2nd cow. Motion to approve, or we got, I'll call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries, cows are set. Anything else? If not,
Transportation Alliance is having their, workshop on, federal funding on July 24th. Plan on going to that if that's okay.
Okay.
That in St. Paul, Commissioner Schlangen?
It's gonna be in Minneapolis this time.
I know Commissioner Slang is our representative, so you probably would need to set that as a cow separately. We're fine there, yeah.
enjoy.
Yeah.
We got a couple more board meetings before then.
All right,
Interesting.
can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, we're adjourned at 10:11, and I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Johnson on the ditch authority.
All right, we'll call our ditch authority meeting to order. We've already had the roll call. Any additional items to add to the agenda, Chris?
I do not have any.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
motion second to approve our agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. On our consent agenda, approve or amend the meeting minutes from June 4th.
So move.
Second.
Motion second to approve those meeting minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Update on County Ditch 14 wetlands.
Yeah, so I just wanted to report back that myself, Joe Lewis from Houston Engineering, we were able to meet with Kate Stephenson and Sierra Cotter last Wednesday to talk about doing some more work near those wetlands on 90th Street. So we revisited what we had originally done. We talked about the difference between kind of flow-through wetlands and depressional wetlands. And I think we got to some agreement that there is a depth that we could excavate and not impact the wetlands. But to prove that work falls onto us. We got to still come up with a plan and give that back to them to review and say, yeah, we agree, you doing this amount of work will not impact the wetlands, therefore no mitigation plan will be required.
And Chris, just for clarification, I know you're specifically speaking about the area around 90th right now.
Yes,
But the areas north of that, because there's two quote-unquote plugs up there,
correct.
are depressional wetlands.
Those are depressional wetlands, and according to Bowser, the Board of Water and Soil Resources, depressional wetlands, they don't work the same. There's nothing more. To put it, we would impact them. If we do any more excavating near those depressional wetlands, we will impact them.
And are they approximately the same length as the issue on 90th? About
Well, yeah,
200
we
feet?
had two 200-foot sections that we did not clean out the ditch bottom.
And Bowser's saying those are depressional.
Yes. So once again, though, I'm asking Houston to kind of look at those, though, and what if we do a partial? What if we did half the depth? What is that impact, and provide us with some costs? So there, and so we what we did was we got to a methodology. We agreed on a methodology. There's two different equations that are kind of commonly used. More of it for like drain tile and agricultural drainage to determine this lateral effect. If you lower the water elevation in the ditch, how far laterally do you go and you impact that? So we got some agreement on some parameters that we could lower that water elevation at the wetland. And so you kind of, in a way, we're back calculating back to the ditch, how far can we excavate there to hold to that minimum water elevation change, so to speak. It sounds kind of complicated, and in a way it kind of is. We had a follow-up conversation, Houston Engineering and I. It's going to take some more engineering work. We think under $5,000 more of engineering work to come up with those and provide some options. And one of those options may be if we did the full depth, full ditch bottom width, what does that impact? and therefore wetland mitigation costs. According to Cade and Bowser, in the last 6 months, he said wetland bank credits are starting to come down in price. I mean, we've seen quite a range in our bank service area to some of the other ones.
But we're in the most expensive one, are we?
Yeah, we were at the end of 2022. That was the most recent data. Yeah, we were $100,000 per credit in bank service area 7. And yeah, once again, the justification or the explanation was because we also incorporate, our bank service area incorporates the Northwest Metro, which is seeing a lot of growth and development. So they are depleting those wetland banks faster than other areas of the state. So.
Also, we had some discussion about what some of the new legislation maybe is bringing forth.
Yeah.
Complicate things.
And if you want me to, I'll go and jump into that. I was going to talk about that as part of the County Ditch 10. So a repair, so we have this draft repair report, and I'm still reviewing it. I attached some maps in there. There's some summary of, the repair listed. I don't know what that means. I just want to get to this. Part of even a repair report is to look at the wetlands. Under old statute 103G, which is the Wetland Conservation Act statute that says that for county ditch projects that are covered under 103E in statute, a mitigation plan is required for type 3, 4, 5, and 6 wetlands. So we've always interpreted that means, well, if it's a type 1 or 2 wetland, you don't need a mitigation plan, therefore you don't need to mitigate those impacts. What we understand now is some statute changes that happened in the last legislative session come into effect August 1st that remove those exemptions for even type 1, 2 wetlands. So we're all still just trying to understand what that means. But to put that into perspective, the yellow on this map of County Ditch 10 are the type 1, 2, 7, 8 wetlands. Or I guess that does include type 6. Type 3, 4, 5. So under the old law, only the ones in red would be the ones we'd have to consider minimizing our impacts or replace it. Now, just on the surface, initial review of the new statute, anything in yellow and red, if we impact those wetlands, we'll have to mitigate. In the case of County Ditch 10, that's the whole length of that ditch.
Then what we're gonna run into is the cost of that repair is gonna be far exceed the benefit.
Correct, yeah.
Well, yeah, so
they
feels,
basically tied our hands.
Yep.
it feels like it may stop a lot of repair projects if you have to start mitigating for type 1, 2 wetlands. What's interesting also, dealing with wetlands, whether it's a road construction project or this, there are wetland banks out there, but they've only been, the idea of you buying credits is you buy a credit of the type of wetland that you're impacting. Well, if before we didn't have to buy credits for type 1, 2 wetlands, are there even banks out there that have type 1, 2 credits available to purchase? So, in the context of Ditch 14, we're working down that path of 3, 4, 5. We've done the repair. I don't think that'll affect that, but I think if future ditch projects, it's going to impact us or affect us.
Chris, maybe I could back up on the CD14. I know Julie's here. Any comments? They're not going to really any action today. This is informational, but I don't know if you wanted to share anything while you're here.
Well, from what I've observed, and I know we've had a lot of rain.
Yeah.
The water in the ditch does not appear to be flowing. What appears to be happening is it's coming up the ditch alongside the road and going into, I have a low area with the tree in it, and the pheasants like it, and whatever. And it flows into there, and what it's trying to do is cut across my front field and form its own ditch.
Wow.
So I'm not very happy.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanna know when we can get something done here, cause this is not okay.
Well, and as you've heard, and it's not the answer everybody wants at this point, but there is meetings being happening and trying to come up with an option here on what we can do or can't do. And we're gonna continue with that. And, this is a part of the reason why I wanted to make sure that you commented on this, because it's in the record and, we want to make sure that we've heard it. As we keep moving forward, I'm glad to hear there's some meetings scheduled. And do you have a timeline when you think you'll hear back from Houston?
Not an exact timeline. We met just yesterday afternoon and discussed this. I'm hoping before the next board meeting for sure. I have some rough, even if they're not very detailed, some approximate costs that I can present.
And
So,
about how far through the contract of the repair of CD 14 are we? Are we 80% through that? Are we?
that's probably about right. So last fall when they were excavating this, they finished it up about the time things were starting to freeze over. So they didn't do any seeding work, and so that hasn't been expended or paid out. And it was always understood that they would need to come back and redress the spoil piles. I was reminded by Houston that we did put some spec language in there that they need to go over that at least twice with equipment to smooth that out, and a lot of that didn't happen. Once again, yeah, unfortunately, this spring has been very wet. We can't get out there without doing more damage than good. So I don't know when. And in the meantime, though, vegetation has kind of naturally occurred and grown up. So, yeah, we're still trying to develop how to get them to come back. And it means having them come back and fulfill that contract obligation. We will probably be tearing out vegetation that has kind of naturally occurred, but then paying for reseeding when it was already growing.
And I guess from my perspective, I would hope whatever resolution we're gonna get on this, hopefully is gonna stay in the repair and not move into a maintenance issue.
Yeah, yeah, because as it is now, it is a maintenance. I'm out there at least weekly at this location, and I was out there just Tuesday. Water is moving through that area, although, yeah, you can argue not as fast as is downstream. And because it's narrow there, it is a choke point. Once again, I walked out there and took a shovel and cleared out a bunch of stalks of either canary grass or corn or something that had choked up that opening again.
Well,
So.
and Cade talks about, what it does laterally. Our plug is gonna move water laterally.
Yeah, yeah. So, and when you think about any kind of blockage, or just to use an analogy of a dam, you have a dam of a certain height, it backs up the water to an elevation higher than that elevation. So we're trying to minimize the water table. 6 inches is kind of what we agreed. They believe at a point laterally from the ditch, if you don't drop that groundwater elevation more than 6 inches, no impact. But that doesn't mean we're limited to only excavating the ditch 6 inches. That's where we're trying to calculate what's the depth of excavation of sediment can we remove and still impact the groundwater elevation by less than 6 inches. So that's where those NRCS adopted equations come into effect.
What has happened with the height on I know you've got a stake set out there. Have you?
Yeah.
We've had a lot of rain.
So it had gone down since our road tour, but I haven't been out there this week. I bet it's back up again. So, yeah.
Okay.
Frustrating. Very
Anything else,
frustrating.
Julie? You've heard where we're at, so
Yeah. I
hopefully
just
we
gotta-
have some future answers in the next few weeks here, and
That would be a good thing.
it would be. We'd like to see
See,
that.
I measured from the center of the ditch to the corner of my property, and it's about 900 feet.
That's underwater.
No, that's how far I am off the ditch
Oh.
for that water to come back up into me.
Okay. All right.
I don't think this is a news flash, but it's embarrassing for us to sit up here and not be able to do anything after what we've seen. So.
But our hands are tied though, too.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's the most frustrating thing, is our hands are always
Well, and
tied.
I think the best thing we can do is continue to keep out in front
Keep
for
pressure.
these landowners and keep the pressure on to do what we can do.
So I think back to County Ditch 10, since we haven't adopted the repair report or ordered the repair, I fear these new statutes are going to come into play with this. So we may have to go back and even modify the recommendations. The repair report typically has recommendations to the Drainage Authority on which course of action to do. And just like in 9 and 14, there was a couple options, and we were working towards a couple options on 10. We may have to go back and revise those if, yeah.
So if we approve something and then new things come out after the fact, would they be grandfathered in, or do we gotta all of a sudden revert back? So it might be getting the horse in front of the cart again and getting this
Speed up.
speeded up, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a question for an attorney.
Just an FYI, the changes do not go into effect until August 1st. However, based on our timeframes, I don't know that we'd be able to have a public hearing on the repair petition since we're still in the draft phase of the petition.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yep.
I did include that for County Ditch 10, and once again, here's and I'll say these hopefully are worst case scenarios. So this alternative one was impacting type 3, 4, 5 wetlands and mitigating for those areas. It's a $2.5 million repair cost. Or if we do something similar where we avoid impacting those and buying credits based on what we know for credit costs, it's $522,000. So, 1/5 of the cost. So, but once again, alternative one, we need to consider this additional potential impact area or do those things where, I don't know, we did the reestablishment of drainage records, so we have that as constructed ditch bottom elevation that we know now. Do we do a repair that doesn't take it back to that or not? So
Wouldn't that be over the threshold on the 2.5 million?
The benefit?
The benefit.
Well, I don't remember the benefits on CD10. I mean, CD10 was a lot longer system. Since CD10 is also an outlet for CD6 and CD7, those ditches itself receive a benefit. So I think the benefit value may have been higher. We may still be under that, but it's...
And doesn't 10 dump into 11?
Correct. 10 dumps into 11 immediately downstream of it, yeah.
The gift that keeps giving.
Oh, yeah. Right. Anything else, Chris?
All connected. No, that's all I have. Yeah, once again, no action, just information.
Members,
we are working on things behind the scenes, even if there's no actions yet today. So,
members, anything? Right, we're adjourned at 10:26. Oh, yeah.